I'm Kate Maven, and this is secret number 5 of 101 Secrets of Canadian Culture. Today is March 24th, 2020, and for those of you who are watching this in the future, this was the day that Ontario, Canada shut down. The coronavirus, COVID-19, is sweeping around the world, and most of us are just staying home to keep other people safe. So my lesson today was, I intended it to be a dialogue between myself and one of my students who had asked some questions, but she is not available. So I will read her questions and then answer them, okay? So our secret today is about gender identity. One of the things that's strange for many immigrants is that in Canada we have a sort of an open acceptance of homosexuality and sexual variation. And that can be very difficult to understand and very difficult to accept. And I understand that. You know, some people are taught that it's wrong. Some people are taught that it's immoral. Some people are taught that it's against what God wants. And I respect your beliefs. What I'm trying to do is trying to explain to you why people here are treated the way they are. So gender identity, in case you don't know, is often referred to as LGBTQ. L for lesbian, when a woman loves another woman in a sexual way. G for gay, meaning a man with a man. B for bisexual, meaning a man or a woman who enjoys romantic relationships with both genders. Not necessarily at the same time, but maybe at the same time. T is for trans, and trans is for people who were born into the body of one gender, but have a strong association of themselves and their identity with the other gender. So, for example, a little boy who always felt that he was a girl, or a little girl that always felt that she was a boy. And very, very recently in Canadian culture have we begun to accept that this is normal and that people have a right to whatever gender orientation that makes them feel whole, makes them feel safe, makes them feel good about themselves. And Q is queer or questioning. And often younger people especially don't want to be put into one group or another group. If you ask them about their sexual orientation, which is, by the way, not a polite question, but people sometimes do, they will not answer. They won't say, I'm straight. Straight means a woman who likes men or a man who likes women. They don't want to say that they're straight or bi or lesbian or gay. They don't want to be identified that way. So we have to accept people however they want to identify themselves. Okay, my biggest lesson that I want to give on every topic is tolerance and respect. That whether you agree or whether you think it's wrong, whether you don't understand it, whether you're scared about it, we still need to show tolerance and respect to each other. And I hope that you can practice that with people who seem pretty strange to you. I will post a link in the description from a small video on how to explain gender identity and why gender identity matters and how to explain it to little kids. It's aimed at preschoolers, but I think it's actually a very good starting place for anyone who really doesn't understand what the big deal is, okay? The main point, I think, if I could sum up, the main point is that if we say that this and this and this activity are girl activities, and that and that and that activities are boy activities, then we're really limiting the options for how that child perceives what they can be when they grow up. And the goal of many parents, including me, was to accept my children however they were and to hope that they grow up to love themselves. So check out the video if you want a little. It's just like a 2-minute video on gender, explaining gender identity to little kids. And right now I'll answer some of the questions that my student had about gender identity. Okay, I wrote them on an envelope when I knew she wouldn't be joining me. So, question number 1. Don't you think that accepting homosexuality encourages our kids to become homosexual? I think this is actually a really common misconception of homosexuality. I think that if you're asking that question, you're assuming that homosexuality is a choice and that people are choosing to be homosexual. My youngest son is homosexual, and one of my stepkids is bisexual. And I think if you ask them, they would tell you that nobody would choose this if they could choose it. Even in countries like Canada, where most people are tolerant, the life of a homosexual person is never going to be as easy, or are they ever going to find as much acceptance as they would as a heterosexual person, meaning a straight person, a man who likes women, or a woman who likes men. So first of all, I don't think it's a choice. I think you're born that way. My youngest son, I pretty much knew he was gay from the time he was maybe 4 years old. So, did he choose it? He didn't even know what it meant. He didn't even know that there was such a thing. And yet I could see that he was different than my other 2 boys. So, accepting homosexuality does not make people homosexual. What I told my student when she asked me this was that, I think around the world, research shows that every country have homosexuals. Even every animal species have homosexuals. Homosexuality is undeniable. And I think for me, the main reason to accept it in my kids is to hopefully prevent them from committing suicide, to be really honest. A child who really feels that their parents are ashamed of them, that their parents will never accept them, and that their society feels that they are sort of a monster, that person does not love themselves. That person may not see a reason to live. And, I wanted my kids to love themselves enough to, stay with us. So, yeah, I don't think that accepting a homosexual makes anyone a homosexual. Okay, question number 2. My son brought home a note saying that they are going to be teaching the class about transsexuals. Why? I thought that transsexuals are less than 1% of the population. I think actually it's a little bit hard to know because it was so unacceptable, even in Canadian society, even 5 years ago, that, if you were this way, you didn't tell anybody. So is it really a tiny percent of the population? Maybe. We'll only know to the degree to which we make it acceptable for people to talk about it. So my answer about why should we teach kids about transsexuality is the same as my answer about why should we teach them about homosexuality and sexuality in general, which is, we want our kids to love themselves. We want our kids to feel that they are normal, that they are okay, that it's okay to be however they are. So if our schools teach your children about transsexuality or homosexuality or sexuality in general, it's so that the kids can accept themselves as they are and love themselves as they are and love each other. So, when my son, when I asked my son if he was gay, I said to him, who you love is none of my business. I just want you to find love. And wherever you find that and however you find that, that's what I want for you. So when I found out when he came out of the closet, the expression of coming out to your parents, when he finally came out to me, I celebrated because for me, this was not a surprise. This was my son accepting himself and knowing that I would accept him as he is. Okay, question number 3. How do I talk to my kids about sexuality? So that's a really hard question, particularly if you didn't have sex education in when you were growing up, and particularly if talking about sexuality is extremely taboo. I'm lucky because I grew up in a family that talked about everything. And so, and I also grew up on a farm seeing what animals did. So for me, sexuality was not really a surprise, but I understand that it can be so taboo that it's really, really difficult. Fortunately, there are lots of fantastic resources online. If you just Google how to talk to your kids about sex, there are great books, there are great videos, and there are great websites that can help you. And for me, my approach was always that I told my kids, you can ask me anything, and I will give you an honest answer. My secret to that was that I didn't tell them more than they asked. So if whatever they asked me about sex, I told them an honest answer. But I didn't go into great detail to describe everything else at that time. I waited until they asked me. And so even as adults, my kids came to me even as adults to ask me what was quote unquote normal. And I had to tell them that normal really varies from person to person. So gender identity is a tough topic for a lot of parents. Even people who are born here are not necessarily comfortable talking to their kids about sex. So we'll get more into that in a future secret. But for now, I hope this has given you a little bit of an idea of how we perceive gender identity. Stay tuned. Hopefully next week, if I'm still stuck at home, it will be very easy, but it will just be me. Will be secret number 6. So stay tuned and keep watching. And thanks so much. If you like this, please like and subscribe. If you strongly disagree, feel free to say so. One of the reasons that people come here is for the freedom to say what they want and believe what they want. And that's what I'm doing, and you have that right too. So thanks a lot. Have a wonderful day. And if you're in quarantine, if you're in isolation like we are, stay happy, stay busy, stay healthy. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.